Hey everyone, it's Ryan here. So this video is one for something that I don't follow as often, but with my wrestling friends when we have weekly calls, sometimes on a Saturday we can watch this together because one of us follows Impact a bit more. Impact Bound for Glory happened about 5 hours ago. I think during that time the clocks went back an hour as well, so it basically felt like it was longer because of the hour change in the middle. Um, I believe Bound for Glory is their version of WrestleMania. It's supposed to be like the not like the be all end all, but like what everyone obviously wants to be on. It feels a bit weird for me because we watched Slammiversary a few months back, and I thought Slammiversary was their version of it because it sounds like a big occasion. Um, but yeah, apparently Bound for Glory is their big pay per view where for me, Bound for Glory sounds like you're on your way to something, and then Slammiversary can be, the big one. But I don't know. I don't think Slammiversary is anything to do with when they got started. I'm not really sure myself, to be honest. But anyway, there were 8 matches on the show, one on the pre-show, 7 on the main show. So start off the Dinas versus the Rascals. We did predictions as well. I picked the Rascals for this just because I have no idea who the Dinas are, and I'd seen the Rascals before when watching Slammiversary and previous Impacts. Like, I'll basically just check in every now and then, just see what's going on, because I used to watch it years ago. Like, I think it was like between 2009 and 2013 I used to watch it. And then, yeah, like I said, I'll just tune in every now and then when, like, someone from WWE went over to Impact or someone from Impact came over to WWE. Yeah, so the Demons ended up winning. The match actually wasn't that long. We were basically just chatting to each other because it was on the pre-show, so we didn't think too much of it, and we didn't realise that the match ended because of how short it was. So on to the main show, the X Division title. You got Rohit Raju, I think that's how you say his name. Apologies for the mispronunciation. Defending his X Division title versus Chris Bay, Jordan Grace, TJP, Trey Miguel, and Willie Mack. There's a few matches on the night where there's occasions of women versus men where it's intergender. I think this is one of those things that Impact have been doing for a very long time, and I don't think get as much credit as they should for it. Like, I know WWE tends to like to make a big deal about them doing something or another. For example, the women's tag team title belts, they made a big deal that they're finally having them when Impact had them for at least a decade before that, I think. And yeah, like, Impact are very open about having intergender matches because, it's in a playing field where women are treated with pretty much the same amount of respect as the men are, as how athletic they are. I think Impact across the 3 brands of Impact, WWE, AEW, have the best women's brand. I know it's not saying much with, obviously, not much in the AEW division being focused on. Then the WWE division, that's now just gone all clusterfucked with them. Basically, when they made the tag team title belts, they had about 4 established tag teams. I think now they've got like 2, and then they've got ones just thrown together. WWE unfortunately doing this thing where for some reason they want to break up every established tag team and then make new ones out of just 2 random people put together. I think for me personally, I think it's because things like Rock and Sock and Austin and Triple H, it was just 2 people thrown together that it then became a big success. They feel that they could probably do that again with some people where, like, sometimes it's worked. I mean, for example, Sheamus and Cesaro worked really well, but again, the success rate isn't that great. It's sort of like with NXT call-ups, like, just because it happens to go well for 1 or 2 people, they think they can do it with everyone, and it doesn't work, unfortunately. And they just seem to just keep trying and trying and trying, regardless of how it affects the actual wrestler's career. Anyway, back to Impact. I went for Rohit to retain because I believe he's like this cowardly heel type character or wrestler. Like when we watched Slammiversary, I remember he snuck in the victory. I think he was supposed to be working with whoever was champion at the time, and he snuck in and won the title, and it was this big deal that He just happened to win this title. Like, he was like the luckiest person ever. And essentially, I predicted the outcome of the match, not to brag or anything, but you see it a lot with like multi-man matches when the good guys are back, when the bad guy is a champion and they're like the cowardly champion, so the last thing they want to do is face everyone. So basically, there's a lot of good moves between them. It's a very exciting match. The X division is probably one of the most exciting divisions they have. I can't remember who hits the finisher. I think it's Chris Bay, possibly hits like a frog splash. He goes for the pin, and I think Rahit comes in and punts him, and then takes the pin for himself to win. It's sort of the cliche of good guy that people want to win hits their finisher, bad guy sneaks in, throws him out of the ring, takes a pin for themselves, and retains that way. And basically, that's what's happened here. The next match was the 20 wrestler intergender Call Your Shot Gauntlet Match. I like the concept of this. Essentially, it's like a Royal Rumble where two people start in the ring. I think every minute someone comes in till basically everyone comes in, and then when it comes down to the last two, they have a match between each other. So going into this one, the main story going into it is Heath is trying to get a job with Impact. Essentially, they're doing the free agent storyline from WWE back in 2016, but they've brought it over to Impact. Rhino's obviously already there. And basically, Heath is in this match. Rhino's in this match, but he's been made to enter number one. If Rhino or Heath win, then Heath gets a contract. Hernandez won the last entry into the Gauntlet match. I was going to call it a Battle Royal. It's not a Battle Royal. I can't remember if Hernandez was supposed to be like a big deal of like being in the way of Rhino and Heath. It didn't certainly feel like it when he came out. There's a lot of surprises in this. I believe the first surprise, like they had like one to be determined. So we thought it'd just be one surprise entrant. I believe it either goes by Sean Daivari, which I think goes by now, or it used to be, I think, Korsov Daivari. If anyone remembers the Muhammad Hassan storyline, his assistant, essentially, who then went on to work with the Great Khali and Kurt Angle, he basically showed up. Brian Myers, formerly known as Kurt Hawkins, did pretty well for himself. James Storm was one of the big surprises. I believe he was meant to be the big return. Swoggle, formerly known as Hornswoggle, also came out, which was very interesting. There's about 5 women in this match. I think Sami Callihan was a surprise to people. Like I said, Heath was like second to last and Hernandez was last. I think Hernandez fights Falu Bar, I think his name is. He's this like really big guy. They've got some like really weird segment, like backstage segment thing. I wasn't paying too much attention to it just from looking at it visually. I've heard this is like one of the worst things of Impact right now, just because of how stupid it is and how silly it is. Like I've tried to watch some of it and it's just it's a bit. But yeah, for some reason he basically wears this really short top and he's basically always either has a nipple out or is trying to cover his nipple up, and he's all like really shy about it. At one point, Hernandez rips his shirt off, and then Falu Bar tries to climb the turnbuckle, so then Hernandez pushes him over the top rope. And then 10 seconds later, Hernandez is just gone. Like, I think he just goes over the top rope and just leaves. There's, like, no big deal about it. I was trying to talk to my friends. It's like, has Hernandez just, like, gone or something? But none of them were really paying attention because we were focused more on what was going on in the ring. But the whole Hernandez thing was just confusing as hell. It's like he eliminated him, and then I guess he decided he wasn't done with him. So then he climbs out the ring and eliminates himself, I think. The last 4 are Rhino, Heath, James Storm, and Sami Callihan. Sami eliminates James Storm, then he eliminates Heath. So it comes down to Rhino and Sami Callihan. Sami gets the advantage on him, but Rhino kicks out. He goes for a chair. And then as he gets in the ring, he gets gored by Rhino, and Rhino wins. So Rhino's gone from number 1 all the way to the end to win. Heath has now got a contract, so there's your feel-good moments for Battle for Glory. The next match, Moose versus EC3. It was some sort of like unsanctioned match. It was confusing, to say the least. It was one of those sort of like cinematic matches, I guess. Moose goes into this like empty arena where EC3's been hanging around for months with his Impact title. Well, I say Impact title. So essentially, a few months ago, Tessa Blanchard was stripped of a title because basically she wouldn't appear for Impact, or she wouldn't like send off any promo videos for them, so they stripped her of the title. So then Moose found the old Impact title and called himself the Impact World Champion. So he's been going around doing that, treating himself like this super big deal. So basically he's gone to this arena. There's a bunch of people in hoodies and these matching hoodies and outfits, and they're covering themselves up. Gets in the ring, calling out for EC3. EC3 eventually comes out. They start fighting. And I guess it's supposed to be like Moose overcoming something, because basically they do this like career flashback on Moose. If you've watched the Firefly Funhouse match with Bray Wyatt and John Cena, there's a bit where John Cena's on top of Bray Wyatt and he keeps punching him, and he keeps doing like the flashback over the years. So like WrestleMania 30, the hustle, loyalty, respect, they've embraced the hate, all that stuff. And then obviously like he starts punching him, turns out it's Huskus the Pig. It was sort of similar to that, except EC3 sort of stayed there. He kept punching him, and like as it was happening, he was having like some career retrospective, I guess. He gets up, goes to leave. EC3 gets back up. He then spears him and then leaves, and then it cuts back to the main show. So we're sat there completely confused what's happened. So basically, Moose walks away. EC3 is carried out by all his like guys in the hoodies, I guess his trainees or followers or whatever. And then like I say, it just cuts back to the Impact Arena. Or Impact Zone, as they call it. So it's basically, I guess they just declared that Moose won because he walked out on his own feet, whereas EC3 didn't. Which is really weird considering they've just building EC3 up as this huge threat to Moose, only for him to get his ass handed to him. It was questionable. Next match, Ken Shamrock defeated Eddie Edwards by submission after I think it was like with an ankle lock. Ken Shamrock in the pre-show was inducted into the Impact Hall of Fame. And he had like messages from like The Rock, Bret Hart, Mick Foley, basically everyone that worked with him. Basically talks about like all his accomplishments he's had over the years. And like I said, he has this match with Eddie Edwards. And he ends up beating him. It's a very solid match. Ken Shamrock is surprisingly he's doing surprisingly well for the age that he is. I think mainly because like of his fighting style, he doesn't have to worry too much about conditioning. But he was in like top condition, like especially body wise. It was a good win for Ken Shamrock. For the previous matches, I had Heath to win, so I came close. I guess technically he won because obviously Rhino got the contract. I did have EC3 to beat Moose because I thought with it being his first match he should win, and I guess he didn't. And then for this one I had Ken Shamrock to beat Eddie Edwards. 4-way tag team match for the Impact World Tag Team Championships. It was Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, the Motor City Machine Guns, versus the North, which is Ethan Page and Josh Alexander. The Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, and then Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. As the match is about to start, I think Motor City Machine Guns come out last, and then Alex Shelley gets attacked at one point, and I think Josh Alexander pile drives him on the stage. So they're doing this whole thing where he's like taken out for a match. He needs serious medical help. Chris Sabin's basically checking in on him, and then they're like, "Oh, does Chris Sabin fight for himself? Like fight by himself, or does he go check on his teammate?" So he goes to the ring and he fights on his own. Basically, gets his ass handed to him, like throughout the match. I think the finish at one point, like the North end up winning after hitting their double move. Chris Sabin can't get in on time to stop the pin. I think Carl Anderson was the one that took the pinfall. So the North are now 2-time champions. And basically, like, a friend of ours who really likes the Motor City Machine Guns, it sort of ruined her night. Because, like, you have this big show, like, it's supposed to be their biggest show of the year. And then you do this injury angle on the show. Like, you'd get it for, like, a smaller pay-per-view, but not for your, essentially, WrestleMania equivalent. I feel like that's what was sort of odd about this show as well, where it felt like it was just one of their middle pay-per-views. For example, like Hell in a Cell coming up for WWE, it felt like one of them where nothing major's going to happen. Whereas you want, like, it just feels like just all sorts of random stuff is happening for no reason. Yeah, so the North basically win their titles back after like 2 months of the Motor City Machine Guns having them, which sort of begs the question, it feels weird making this massive deal Motor City Machine Guns to come back to win the titles only to then lose them again after a couple of months. I thought they would, like, you know, hold them for a while at least, and then maybe some new team could win it. Like, if Motor City Machine Guns disappear after this, I guess it was just a sort of a heat of the moment in Slammiversary. Because with the main event, I'll go over that as well, whereas I think they probably had different ideas. And, like, if they were to do this, this is where I feel like Slammiversary and Bound for Glory should have been the other way around. So if they did this injury angle at Bound for Glory, which obviously was tonight, and then Motor City Machine Guns come back at Slammiversary and then basically challenge for the titles because obviously they deserve a rematch after what happened to Alex Shelley, it would make sense. But I guess we'll see what happens on Impact to see what they do from here on. But yeah, North tag team champions again. Next match was supposed to be Deonna Purrazzo versus Kaylee Ray. Or Kylie Ray. Sorry, not Kaylee Ray. Kaylee Ray's the NXT UK star. And they did the promo package of like how she's fought to get to where she is. You know, she's had to overcome several obstacles, blah, blah, blah. Deonna Purrazzo comes out with Kimberly, who's a manager. Kylie Ray's music hits, but she doesn't come out. And then Deonna goes, oh, it's a shame. I guess she doesn't actually want to fight for the title. So I'll just open the challenge to any man, blah, blah, blah. Like, so there's us thinking, oh, well, a man's going to come out and fight for the women's title, which does seem a bit silly. But then it turns out Su Yung comes out, who I think she's part of the whole weird backstage group thing with like Taya Valkyrie and all the fat fuckers, don't even know what the name are. But yeah, and it was like, so basically they make this big deal that she's come out and challenged for the title. It goes on for like 15 minutes. There's a bit with a ref bump. Kimberly tries to get involved. It doesn't work. And eventually Su Yung wins by submission, I believe. And yeah, Su Yung is now the new Impact Knockouts champion. And then the main event, which was one of the big things we were kind of concerned about going into the show. It's Rich Swann versus Eric Young for the Impact World title. So, back at Slammiversary, the build-up to it, which actually had an intrigue to start watching Impact again. In the build-up to it, there's a fatal four-way match for the vacant world title. It was Ace Austin, Eddie Edwards, someone else, forgot who it was. I think, who was it? It might have been Ethan Page, might have been Sami Callihan. And then there was a mystery fourth person. So we're like, oh, who's this going to, like, because it's being Slammiversary, me thinking it's their biggest event. You know, they'll get someone big. They start teasing, like, all the people that have been released by WWE, like, a couple of weeks prior. So you had, like, Heath Slater, Kurt Hawkins, you had Rusev, you had EC3, you had Eric Young, you had Eric Rowan, you had, like, basically just, like, 14 names. They just, like, did, like, if they had them in Impact, they did the clips of them. For Rusev, they just did the Bulgarian flag, because obviously Rusev's not worked there before. So yeah, we're all, like, sat there thinking, oh, who could this be? Gets to the show, and Rich Swann comes out, and that makes Ed, one of our friends, makes him his least favourite wrestler ever, and you can see why. They did this massive build-up for this returning former world champion that's going to challenge for the title, and Rich Swann comes out, who earlier in the night had said that due to his leg injury, that it was a legitimate leg injury, but I think he possibly was recovered before. I feel like it had healed before before they wanted, but basically it healed before, and essentially like they're playing it off like he still has this injury, and at some point he's going to reveal that he's 100% and he can go for the world title. I feel like the original plan was he was meant to be the fourth person, but they still had the injury, and then they were going to reveal, oh, I'm actually 100%, I'm in this title match. But then with the recent releases coming up to that, they then switched their plans. So, yeah, Rich Swann comes out as the fourth person. Ed is massively pissed off, which is hilarious to us. And then, after he comes out, he reveals, oh, I'm fine, I don't have a leg injury. And then the fifth entrant, yeah, they basically throw in a fifth entrant because fuck the rules, I guess. It's Eric Young. You know, what would have been much bigger as the fourth entrant, you know. And Eric Young gets eliminated by Rich Swann of all people, so then that pisses Ed off even more. Yeah, he's given me my permission to say all this stuff as well. Like basically after this show, he went off, and then like 45 minutes later tried to recall the group, and only I answered, so we just chatted for about 10 minutes. But yeah, and then if I remember correctly, so Rich Swann eliminates Eric Young. Eddie Edwards ends up winning the title. I think he pins Ace Austin last. And then I think like a month later, Eric Young beats Eddie Edwards for the title. So why not just put the title on Eric Young in the first place? Turns out the reason for that is because, well, Eric Young, I think the night after Impact after, had re-injured Rich Swann's leg. So basically put the chair around his leg, kept stomping on it, and it's basically this potential career-ending injury. So obviously the story leading into this is Rich Swann's redemption from his career-ending injury. And basically he's challenging Eric Young for the world title. So he basically comes out, him and Eric Young are fighting. They go on for ages about this ankle that's supposed to hurt. At one point he gets... It's weird because I thought it was meant to be some sort of counter by Rich Swann, but I guess it wasn't. They're on the outside of the ring, and he does like a back body drop on Rich Swann. And basically, his head hits the apron, but he's got his hands planted down as well. So there's me thinking it's him doing this, like, this handstand thing where he bounces off the ropes, and they will come down and like hurricanrana him. And then he just drops. And then they do this whole, oh, his neck is seriously injured. We thought it was going to be his ankle, but it turns out it's his neck. So then the whole time, Eric Young's just going after his neck. And then this is sort of where the concerning part comes in. Not specifically for me, but more for Ed, because I know how he's going to react to it. But the more they play into his resilience from this ankle injury and this neck injury, I'm sat there thinking, he's going to win. Like, Rich Swann's going to win, because it's going to be the overcoming the odds thing that they've been playing for months. Like, basically, Eric Young is just constantly telling him to go away, whereas commentary thinks he's saying walk away. It's like, no, he's saying go away. Gets him in submission holds. Rich Swann basically, so he gets him in a sleeper hold. Rich Swann manages to get a rope break. Now, at one point he puts the ankle lock, like heel hold in, and basically Rich Swann's telling it like it's the worst pain ever. And it's like the whole time Eric Young's been focused on the neck, so the sleeper hold makes sense. I get with the recovering from the ankle injury that him doing it on the leg would hurt, but he's not attacked the leg at all in the entire match. You'd think he would attack it a little bit and then go for it. But then he overcomes that, so then they make it a big deal that he's managed to survive all this pain in his neck and his ankle. And basically has this flurry of offense, hits his Phoenix Splash or reverse 450, whatever it is. And he wins the world title. And yeah, like I said, halfway through the match I sort of sensed it happening. Ed was more than upset about it, which was sort of hilarious to us. I think he calmed down when we were chatting for a bit afterwards. He said, like, yeah, it was good on Impact because they actually had us invested when we weren't really watching it before. But just the fact that Rich Swann was a champion, and now in his mind is like, who takes it off him next? I'm personally thinking Moose takes it off him now that he's got his Impact World title back. He'll go after Rich Swann and say, well, I want that one because, you know, then I can be a double Impact World champion. But yeah, and then everyone, well, I say everyone, all the good guys in the locker room come out and lift him up like it's some massive celebration. You know, Rich Swann is this major underdog, everyone's favourite wrestler type thing. And yeah, that's basically how the show ends. And like I said, for us, the reaction was more for Ed and his reaction to it. Yeah, I think for a Bound for Glory, it wasn't great. It had some of the matches were good, but for what's meant to feel like their biggest event of the year, it felt like just a standard pay-per-view. Maybe that's just down to obviously fans not being in the arenas anymore or something like that. But yeah, for me, it just felt like any run-of-the-mill regular pay-per-view. Yeah, like I say, some good matches, some very confusing moments. Like I said, Moose and EC3 just finished. The whole thing with Motor City Machine Guns and the whole Alex Shelley thing, it's like, why are you doing that on your biggest show of the year? Why not just have the Fatal 4-Way and make the match much better? I'm not being funny, but with Motor City Machine Guns, no one pays to see one half of them perform. You pay for both of them because of how good of a tag team they are. And yeah, I guess the couple of Su Yung and Rich Swann, real life couple. They don't do it in they don't say they're a couple in kayfabe. I guess they're the champions of the Impact, of the Impact roster, I guess. So we'll see where they go from there. But yeah, where Eric Young goes from here, I don't know. Well, that was one of the things as well. For some reason, 2 minutes from the end of the match, the commentators started to go in favour of Rich Swann. They're like, come on, Rich Swann, you can do it, Rich. Rich, we believe in you. It's like, way to show bias, And for me, it was sort of it was their attempt at a mix between Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30 and Kofi at WrestleMania 35, where it's this underdog that's not supposed to win, that's had so many things go against them, is then standing up to the big evil guy, and then they actually go on to win. Then they do the massive celebration with everyone cheering them on and going, yeah, you've done it, Because, in those matches, you've got, in WrestleMania 30, you've got them sort of cheering on for Daniel Bryan. In WrestleMania 35, you've got Byron cheering on for Kofi. And then, like I said, for the commentators just to immediately, towards the end of the match, just basically cheer on Rich Swann. It's a bit... they didn't do it in any of the other matches. They didn't go with any other guys, go come on, Chris Sabin, you can do it for Alex Shelley. Or, come on, Ken, you can beat Eddie Edwards. He's been doing it. It's literally, it was just this match. So you can sort of see what they were sort of most invested in. But yeah, for me, this could have easily just been any other pay-per-view throughout the year. It didn't feel like a Bound for Glory for me. I guess we'll see what happens on the next Impact when it comes to the new champions. Mainly the tag titles and obviously the world title. See where Moose goes from here. Obviously Heath now has a contract, so maybe Heath and Rhino go after the tag titles. I don't know. But yeah, that's my review for Bound for Glory. Like I said, sort of felt average for a Bound for Glory. It probably would have been a good regular pay-per-view, but for a Bound for Glory, it was it wasn't that good. So yeah. Thank you very much for watching this video. I think depending on what pay-per-views come up and when I'm available to do them, because I'm sort of getting back into work now, so I sort of have to be able to see what I can and can't watch. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens on Impact. I won't do an Impact reaction. I think Impact will just solely be down to certain pay-per-views, i.e. Slammiversary, Road to Glory, or if there's some big thing going on. So yeah. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I shall hopefully see you in the next one.